All right, so you probably heard everyone telling you that you need to niche down. Even if you've already picked a niche, you need to niche down further. And then you've heard other people telling you that you are the niche. And this is all very confusing. So, how do you become your own niche? How do you actually pick your niche? How do you become unique so that people watch the videos for you and they don't just watch the videos for the content that you're talking about? Well, we're going to talk about that in today's video. And, I'm somebody who at some point I wasn't getting very many views. This was just about 5 years ago or so. I was barely getting any views and I was recording just like this. And if you notice any similarities here, this looks like kind of like Graham Stephan's setup. And there's a reason for that is because I was kind of becoming like my own little version of Graham Stephan. So I was being a little bit of a copycat, right? A lot of the stuff he did, even the intros and stuff, I would kind of copy. And that's something that a lot of people do. And it's a terrible idea. And now, I have my own unique style. I've got a channel that has over 800,000 subscribers. This, of course, is my second channel. And, I get a ton of views as well. So this is, my record for views in a day, 268,000. I'm able to travel the world, and I'm able to just have a great time and be myself while I'm doing it. So let's talk about how you can do this as well. First tip, you need to be the king of a puddle. Okay, so start by absolutely dominating a very specific niche. Okay, so this is when you're a beginner, when you're just starting out, or even when you have a small channel. You have to start with a very specific niche. Okay, so instead of trying to just make money on, make money online or something like that, you need to go down further. So there's a lot of different ways to make money, right? Because wealth is one of the big niches, right? And there's a lot of ways to accumulate wealth. So you could save money, you could invest money, you could make money with a job, or you could make money by starting a business, right? So those are four kind of sub niches. But you need to go even further than that because there's lots of channels out there that talk about those as well. So you got to go down one level. So pick one of those and then go down one level. So in my particular case, I picked originally the make money with a job sub niche, and even that was not enough. I had to go down one level further. So how do you get a job? Well, you have to get educated, right? So you have to get some kind of education to get a job. So I started talking about college degrees and different types of alternative education that you can, do in order to get a job and to get a good job. And so that is kind of my sub niche that I picked. And not many other people were doing it. And, that's what you got to do. Like, even if it's a mega saturated market like the fitness niche, you can succeed by focusing on a super specific audience. And the audience I was focusing on is people who were skeptical about college degrees, but people who might still want to go to college. So I talked about the pros and cons of different college degrees. I talked about which ones I thought were good and which ones I thought were bad, which makes a lot of sense because I actually got a doctorate. So I know a lot about the college degree system. And so I talked about, hey, if you want to get into this career, you don't have to get a degree. You can actually go this route. Or if you want to get into that career, you can get a degree, but you can get it from this accelerated university so that you can save yourself a bunch of time, right? So I got into the nuance of different careers and different degrees and different ways of getting educated as well, like boot camps, certifications, certificates, online courses, etc. Okay. So another example is one of my clients who helps wealthy French dads over the age of 40 lose body fat and get fit. This is one of my clients. You want to guess how much he makes? He makes 8 figures a year. He makes $10 million a year. And this is how niche he is. Wealthy French dads over the age of 40, usually these are like executives, lawyers, doctors, business owners, etc., lose body fat and get fit. Okay. So that's what you want to do in a saturated market. You might have to go down 3 levels. You might even have to go down 4 levels before you find your niche. So a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche. Okay. But be the king of that puddle. And then at that point, you can expand. So this particular client is now expanding to the same exact offer, but for moms instead of dads. So it's the exact same offer, but it's for moms. Okay. So this client is expanding. He's probably going to double his revenue by doing it. Okay. So this is how niche you have to get if you go into something like fitness or something like make money online or anything like that. And you have the other end of the spectrum where the niche is barely known. So there's some niches out there where, there's almost no one covering it. And so in that case, you don't have to get very, very, you don't have to niche down any further, right? But so it's going to be different for every niche. Some niches are very well known, very saturated, lots of people covering them. And in that case, you have to go down many levels. Other niches are not very well known, not that saturated, so you can stay at the top level, right? So an example of that, a friend of mine offers a very specific type of service, like a retainer consulting model, where whenever a small to medium sized business has issues with Google or some other type of technology that they use, they just contact his IT guys and they pay him $5,000 a year to have an IT person on retainer. So it's a specific types of software that business owners very typically use, but they don't have very good customer service, right? So he offers IT guys that are specialized in that particular type of software. And of course, he helps them whenever they have issues, and it's on a consulting retainer basis. So they pay him $5,000 a year to do that, right? And he also makes 10 million plus a year. Okay. So this is how you can do it. This is an example of someone who went into a mega saturated niche. This is an example of someone who went into a niche that is not saturated at all. And he didn't have to go down very many levels, right? So whatever niche you go into, you want to be the king. You want to be able to be number one. You want to be able to give the absolute best advice in that niche, and you want to be able to absolutely dominate it, right? So if you have to go down to the puddle level where you're just a king of a tiny little puddle, then do it. Another example of this is a perfect example of someone who's a king of a tiny little puddle, is another client that I know and a friend now. He has basically a recruiting agency where he places a very specific type of position for business owners. This is a position that business owners have a lot of trouble hiring for, and it's a position that's a massive headache for business owners to fill. Okay. And he places this very specific type of position in their businesses. Now, he only gets about 100 views per video, and he makes millions of dollars per year. Okay. He is the king of a tiny little puddle. And you know what? He's happy with it. If he wanted to expand, he could, but he doesn't, right? Because he's happy with it. He's happy making millions of dollars a year. Okay. So once you're the king of the puddle, you can choose to expand to a pond, and then expand to a lake, and then expand to a river, then expand to a sea, and then expand to the ocean if you want to. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay. So let's talk about another way of becoming the niche: combining different interests and passions. So this is very, very interesting here, guys. So this is where you really get to showcase your personality and your lifestyle and really set yourself apart. Now, here's another very saturated market, which is trading. Okay. There's 1,000, maybe 10,000 trading channels on YouTube. And this girl was able to separate herself from the rest of the market by really showcasing her personality in kind of a hilarious way. I don't know if she meant for it to be hilarious, but like my friends and I find it hilarious. And basically, her name is Humbled Trader, and she combines pole dancing with trading. So she'll go through like, oh, day in the life of a trader, and then it'll start off with her pole dancing, or like pole dancing will be on the thumbnail or something. It's kind of hilarious, and it's also kind of genius. I don't know if she did it on purpose, but here's one of her videos: a day in the life of a millennial day trader, and she's got the pole dancing in the thumbnail, which I think is just really funny. Another one of her videos here, she shows pole dancing with like the trading indicators in the background. Dude, I'm not judging. I mean, it works for her, and that's awesome. The whole point here is showcase your personality. Okay. And you can get really weird with it. Like just literally mark down all the things that you do, and you can get really weird with it. Like mark all the things that you like, all the things that you do on a regular basis, all your hobbies, etc. And then just put them into your content, right? So you could merge something really, really weird, such as pole dancing with trading. And an example of that would be Humble Trader, just right here. And she's madly successful. I mean, she's got like, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Actually, she's got millions of subscribers. And I can almost guarantee you that she makes, even if she's terrible at monetizing, she probably makes $100,000 a month. I mean, if she's absolutely horrible at monetizing, if she's good at it, she's probably making millions. Okay. Millions a month, not a year, millions a month. Okay. So if a lot of your audience watches MMA and you like MMA, talk about MMA. If a lot of your audience plays chess and you like chess, talk about chess. If you like heavy metal music with business content, that could set you apart. This is an example of what Alex Becker does. Not a lot of people on YouTube like heavy metal music, but there's like hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of people out there that like heavy metal music. So just the fact that you like heavy metal music will make them relate to you, right? So just be yourself and just showcase the things that you already like. Alex Becker used to play a lot of heavy metal music in his old videos, and his outros were heavy metal, and he probably attracted a lot of people who also like heavy metal, right? So another example of this would be, let's say you really like reptiles, right? You really like collecting snakes or lizards or whatever. How about you start your video with like a lizard on your shoulder, or start your video holding a snake, right? It's going to attract other people who are really into herping. That's what it's called, herping. Okay. So just showcase the things that you already do and the things you already like and your hobbies in your videos, right? Just showcase them. And that's going to attract a lot of people to you because you have something in common with them, right? And then they're going to be more likely to watch you in the future. Another one is specialize in a demographic. So focus on a specific demographic. For example, financial planning for divorced women over 50 who are high achieving. Okay, so not just financial planning, but financial planning for divorced women. And not just financial planning for divorced women, but financial planning for divorced women over 50. And not just financial planning for divorced women over 50, but financial planning for divorced women over 50 who are also high achievers. Okay, so people who want to make a really good return on their investment. Okay, that is a way you can really set yourself apart by specializing in a demographic. And your personal experience can be a strong asset here. So if you're just happen to be a woman over 50 who wants to teach people about financial planning, and you're divorced and you're a high achiever, well, guess what? You'd make a really good person to teach other people who are in your situation that exact thing. So your personal experience can really be a strong asset, guys. For example, one of my clients who was a foreign exchange student was able to get into an elite U.S. university, UPenn, which is also known as Wharton Business School. And he ended up making $80K per month just by helping other international students get into Ivy League schools. Okay, so he literally just he just served a demographic of people that were just like him, right? So again, this kind of goes back to the whole be yourself, right? Be yourself, but be the best version of yourself. And focus on a specific demographic. And in many cases, this specific demographic is going to be, I'm just going to write it here. In many cases, it is going to be, let's make that smaller, the younger version of you. Okay. In many cases, this demographic is going to be the younger version of you. You from a few years ago, trying to solve, problems. You had a painful problem. You were able to solve it. Guess what? There's probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other people out there that have the same exact painful problem. This client's painful problem was that he was trying to get into an elite U.S. university, and he did it. He figured out how to do it. And, especially as a foreign student, an international student, it's not so easy. And then what did he do? He helps a bunch of other foreign and international students get into Ivy League schools as well. Brilliant, right? So just solve problems for the past version of yourself, right? That's another really good one. Solve problems for the past version of yourself. This is a really easy way of making content. All right. Another way you can set yourself apart, create a unique methodology or framework. For example, you can develop a proprietary system for learning languages that combines neuroscience, gamification, and cultural immersion. So, everyone has their philosophies out there for how to learn a new language, but does everyone integrate neuroscience, gamification, and cultural immersion into their framework for teaching people? Probably not, right? There's probably a bunch of people who do, spaced repetition and stuff like that for learning languages, but there's not a lot of people who integrate this stuff. And people who are interested in neuroscience, gamification, and cultural immersion are probably going to vibe with this solution, right? This methodology for solving the problem. So if you can figure out some kind of proprietary or unique methodology or framework for how you do something, it can be a really good way of being your own niche. So this is, when you've got a niche, you've got a person, a very specific type of person, and then you've got a problem, obviously a very specific type of problem, and then you've got a solution for that problem. So by coming up with new versions of these are kind of like three different dials that you can play with in any specific niche. So the niche could be, for instance, make money online, but the person could be African American females, right? If you're an African American female watching this or an African American male watching this, there you go. That could be your niche. Or an Asian woman, right? So that could be your person. And then you could get even more niche than that. An Asian woman over 50 who wants to get in shape or who wants to, learn how to trade, right? Then you've got the problem. Okay. And this is something you can mess with as well, because all different people out there have many different problems probably related to money. Some people want to make more money. Some people want to invest their money. You can pick that problem, right? Pick the problem that they have. And then the solution, you can play with the solution as well. There's probably 100 different ways to solve the problem. And all of those different ways are going to vibe with different types of people, right? For one person, one way of solving the problem might be the best. For another person, a different way of solving the problem might be the best. All the business models, for instance, work, right? So if the problem is, let's say the problem is escape 9 to 5. Okay, escape 9 to 5, right? They hate their 9 to 5 job. The person is let's just say, I don't know, like a black male, right? Let's just say a black male. Okay. Wow. Really bad handwriting there. Black male. Problem is escaping 9 to 5. They hate their job. And there could be 100 different solutions to that, right? So, and the different solutions are going to be better for different people. Every single business model works. E-com could be really good for some people, like drop shipping, right? E-com, SMMA can be really good for some people. Now, I personally think that YouTube is the absolute best, and I'll die on that hill. I think that YouTube is the biggest opportunity. There's a reason why all the gurus use YouTube, and that's their primary platform. But yeah, that can be your solution. So there'd be 100 other solutions. So think of these three things as the three dials that you can turn in order to make your niche more unique, right? And then one thing you can do is get really, really specific, right? So get extremely specific. So most of the time, this is going to be something that you have solved. So basically become the go-to expert, and you're just the absolute best at doing it. So for instance, you can become an expert in solving a very specific problem, like setting up CRM tracking in Salesforce for e-commerce companies. So this is just brute forcing the whole, going super niche thing, right? And it's like you're kind of going super niche in two different areas, because you're going super niche in the e-com area, but you're also going super niche in that you are setting up a CRM for a very specific type of software, right? So you're combining two super niche areas, like almost think of like two circles that have a little bit of overlap right there in the middle, and that's your niche. Okay. And that would be solving a highly specific problem. You can even set up tracking for e-commerce companies, or set up tracking specifically for software companies, for instance, right? And that can give a ton of value. So solve a highly specific problem where, you might even, get really niche, and then you combine two different niches. So that would be like, e-com and also using software, so using CRMs, right? And you can also offer an unconventional twist on traditional services. So provide a unique twist on a traditional service, like offering hiking therapy, okay, to get over depression. So an example of that is this is actually what my sister does. My sister does equine therapy, which is, if you didn't know, this is horse therapy. So you basically get outside, you ride horses, you spend time around horses, and that can work really well for some people. It really helps alleviate some people's depression, okay? And she likes to have people ride horses, and that's her thing that helps people and gives them therapy. Or a one-person business model instead of a typical team structure, right? That's kind of what Dan Coe did, right? So he talked about doing the whole make money online thing, but he's like, you know what? You don't have to hire a team. You can do a one-person business model. because he found that that was, probably something that a lot of people don't want to do, is hire a team. And he believed in doing it all on your own instead of hiring people the way that companies do. And he's absolutely crushing it. His philosophy really resonates with a lot of people. A lot of people out there do not want to hire people. And as a side note, guys, I kind of disagree with him a lot there. And, I think I can confidently disagree with him. Here's a lot of, Stripe screenshots that I had, made a lot of sales in a short period of time there. Here's, 243,000 in one day. So yeah, I think I can confidently disagree with him there. But to be fair, um, I do like his ideas. I do like his content, and he probably resonates with a ton of people. So that's what a lot of people out there need. It's not like there's one right answer for everything. Some people should hire a team. Some people shouldn't. Right. Um, and then you can also focus on overlooked sub niches. Okay. So instead of like general topics, the three general topics are health. These are the ones that everyone always talks about: health, wealth, and relationships. Okay, these are the three general topics. But what if you don't want to focus on any of these three topics, right? What if you want to focus on overnight care for exotic pets? Okay, I guess you could say that's kind of relationships. You could maybe make that stretch. But what about teaching people how to use Excel? I don't think that really falls under wealth, does it? I mean, they're not necessarily doing it to make money. Maybe teaching people how to knit or crochet, or teaching people how to create a bunker to survive the nuclear war, right? So instead of general topics that almost everyone covers, you could specialize in a sub niche that's often overlooked. Okay, and those are all niches, by the way, that people are making a lot of money with. And then leverage cultural trends. So create a personal brand that ties a cultural trend with your niche. So an example of this would be a minimalist Michelin chef. So this is someone who creates gourmet meals using only 5 ingredients or less, like really, really good meals using less amount of ingredients. So this is something that anyone could potentially cook because it's so few ingredients, and it's probably a lot healthier because we're all, I think, a little bit concerned about all those weird chemicals that are in our food, right? And we, a lot of them, it comes out, a few years later that they give you cancer or something, and it's like, that's not cool. I've been eating that for 15 years now. But yeah, so minimalism is a cultural trend, and cooking is a very well-established niche, right? And so cooking gourmet meals with only 5 ingredients or less, right? Minimalist cooking. And, it's like you're a minimalist chef where you try to keep things very simple and healthy without all the extra stuff that you read on the cans. Just create gourmet meals using very simple methodology, and you can offer your services in an unconventional setting or format. Okay. And another way to really set yourself apart, guys, is to adopt a unique style or time period. Now, this is really rare. Not a lot of people do this, but I have actually seen people do this and pull it off. It's super, super rare. But you could adopt like a different time period. So, for example, I saw one channel that basically kind of acts like a 1950s advertising man, and that's kind of how he differentiates himself. So there's this show called Mad Men, and it's a pretty good show. I haven't quite finished it, but I have watched a couple seasons of it. And it's all about advertising, but it's in the 1950s. And this guy kind of positioned himself sort of like his image and persona is that of a 1950s advertising man. Okay. So he's an ads man. And that's just another weird way of differentiating yourself. Another channel that I know about talks about history. This isn't really the type of channel that I typically recommend, but he always dresses up like an Englishman from the 1600s. He dresses up in like historical, different historical outfits. Another channel talks about history, and he dresses up in like Italian or Greek outfits, right? So this is another way you can kind of set yourself apart by dressing up, like the time periods that you're talking about. The 1950s was a renaissance time for advertising. It's where they kind of made a lot of huge leaps in advertising. And dressing up in this period when you're teaching advertising principles and marketing principles does make a lot of sense. And then discuss taboo topics. So talk about controversial or taboo subjects that others avoid, like politics, religion, etc. Or just things that are, are culturally, you're not supposed to talk about them, to attract a highly engaged audience. So, when, with this stuff, it really just comes down to supply and demand, right? So if most people are not willing to talk about this stuff, that means that there's going to be a lower supply than there is demand. So if you talk about it, that means that you are likely going to attract a large audience of people. And not only are you going to attract a lot of people, but they're going to have a lot of respect for you for actually talking about it. Now, you're probably also going to make the other 50% of people hate you if you do this, right? The moment you reveal your political affiliation, or, talk about religion or anything like that, a lot of other people are not going to like you a lot. But the people that like you are going to really like you. Now, you've got to be careful with this, because yes, you can get shadow banned doing this. You can get shadow banned. You can get in trouble. You can get demonetized. Yeah, you can get like monetization, demonetized. So you got to be really careful doing this. Make sure you understand what you can and cannot do on YouTube. A really good example of a channel that did this was Hamza. He talked about a lot of controversial stuff, and it looks like he didn't get in too much trouble for it. So kind of pay attention to what he did, and how he was able to do that kind of thing. And this is a spectrum as well, right? So it's not like you have to be 100% controversial. You can be like, 70% controversial. You can be like, 50% controversial. So it's a spectrum, right? So, but this is a way that you can attract a lot of people. When I was a smaller channel, I did do some controversial stuff. And I think that if you are going to do this, this is not legal advice, it's not accounting advice or anything like that. If you are going to do this, it's probably a good idea to do it as a smaller channel. Another example of a channel that did this was Meet Kevin. So he basically went after Grant Cardone. There was this prank that he did where he took a bunch of people dressed up as elves into Grant Cardone's office and delivered flowers to him or something like that. And he basically just made a bunch of videos just going after Grant Cardone, kind of calling him a scammer and stuff like that, right? And this initially grew his channel when he was really small. It grew his channel like crazy when he was really small. But as he grew bigger, he kind of stopped talking bad about other people, because if you get big enough, you can get sued, and that costs a lot of money. Whether you're right or wrong, you're going to have to pay the lawyers, right? And so it's not as much of a good idea to do this as you get bigger. It makes a lot more sense to do this when you're small enough that it's just not worth it for people to, punch down at you, so to speak. But again, it's not legal advice. Don't necessarily recommend doing that. It does require a lot of nuance and skill to pull this off without getting in trouble. Okay. So in summary, start with a very specific niche and become the best in that area, right? King of the puddle. As you grow, you can expand to larger niches, king of the ocean, and use a combination of skills, demographics, methodologies, and unconventional approaches to further differentiate yourself. And by solving specific problems and integrating your passions or cultural trends, you can create a unique presence in your field. And another thing I want you to pay attention to, and this kind of all ties into this, is the emotion, right? What emotions do you generate in people's minds when they watch your content? And when it comes to emotions, always remember this quote: people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And what would make me feel really good is if you booked a call with me. Link is in the description and the pinned comment below. I teach people how to grow and monetize YouTube, and I teach people how to treat it like an actual business, so you can actually make money from your YouTube channel. Or if you're a business owner, you can actually start on YouTube and use it as a great way to generate leads and make more money and get more clients.